Fantasy Philosophers is brought to you by fantasy-info.com.
The Bengals and Eagles squared off for the only preseason game in the second week on Friday. The points that we wanted to break down here for the Bengals side, Carson Palmer had 169 yards. He had 2 picks, but what I really noticed in this game is he looked pretty good when he went down the field. He hooked up with Terrell Owens, who had 3 catches for 67 yards, hit him on one for a 43-yard bomb. That was a really nice play to see. He also went deep to Chad Ochocinco at one time. That wasn't a hookup, but it still looked pretty good. It looks like Carson's arm looks pretty darn alive. This is good to see. I haven't really seen him look at least that good for maybe 3 years, because 2 years ago he was out for most of the year with the arm, and then last year I think he was kind of recovering to some degree. The other noteworthy player in here is Bernard Scott, the backup to Cedric Benson. I've said, look at Cedric Benson last year, broke down the middle of the season. With Scott, he came in and showed that he could be capable. Remember that game against the Raiders when he had a bunch of yardage in that game, didn't quite get a touchdown. Well, in this one, he had 2 carries, 13 yards. After that after that long catch by Terrell Owens, the 43-yard catch that set up Bernard Scott, I believe it was the next play. He hit it for a 6-yard touchdown run. I really like Scott. He can really make some nice plays out there, and if anything should happen to Cedric, this kid could come in and be a really, really nice flex play option for your fantasy squad. So keep his name in mind even after the draft, even when we're getting to the season, because there's a lot of leagues I don't expect him to get drafted at all, but he's definitely one of those names that we need to keep an eye on if Benson should start getting dinged up. For the Eagles side, Kevin Kolb and Michael Vick, more flip-flopping. Who's starting? I mean, Kolb will start a series, and then after a few plays, Vick comes back in, and then Kolb comes back in. We saw a little bit of this last year with Vick and McNabb. I really don't like it. I think it really breaks the tempo of the game. Vick, outside of really the pocket breaking down, him running from yardage in this game. At one point here, we're still early part of the second half, but he's thrown, I think he's 0 for 3 with 2 interceptions in this game. So he just doesn't look very effective in the passing game. I know he's saying he's trying to transition from being a running quarterback to being a true formidable quarterback. I'm really not seeing it here. Maybe too many off-the-field things that he's just not focusing enough on the field throughout his career, but not seeing it. For Kolb, the same problems I've had for Kolb that I've been talking about all off-season are still coming true. They came true last week. He had no problem moving the football. And in the West Coast offense, hey, you can move the football, but it's converting those touchdowns, especially when you start getting around that 25-yard line. Last week, he drove the ball down 2 times in a row. They had to kick 2 field goals. This week, same thing. They had to kick 2 field goals. There was one point when they got in the red zone that Kolb actually did hit. I believe it was Jason Avant for a touchdown. That got called back, but too many times we're seeing drives getting held back. That means David Akers was again 2 for 2 in this game. I think he's going to have a great year with Kolb. I just don't think the touchdowns are going to be there. DeSean Jackson, he looked good again. He had 4 catches for 74 yards. That was good to see, but again, the touchdowns is only going to be somewhere around 6 touchdowns this year. We're going to have to find out. One injury note that there is worth noting to take care of in this game mainly was Jeremy Maclin. He had a shoulder contusion. We'll see what the status is on that after the game. You're not going to hear much of anything, obviously, during the game. So with Maclin, keep an eye on that with his shoulder. I just wonder with him, DeSean Jackson, he seems like a toothpick. They both do, really. But it seems like DeSean can take a hit. With Maclin, I question if he can take hits throughout his career, and it seems like he might be a little fragile. I'd stay away from Maclin for your fantasy squad this year. Finally, for IDP people, Brandon Graham, first-round pick of the Philadelphia Eagles. He had 3 tackles and a sack tonight, so he had a nice little night here in preseason action. I think he might be a little sleeper that could come on right away as a rookie on the defensive end.
For more fantasy football information, go to fantasy-info.com and sign up for our free e-newsletter. Good luck in your 2010 Fantasy Football League. As an added bonus, the Fantasy Info guys will include their 5 secret tips for success in fantasy football with your free subscription.